It was raining hard for a few days, and Thumbkin was getting rather tired of just staying inside. Just listen to that rain, VELVETNOSE. If it doesn't stop by tomorrow, I'm going to go out anyway. Well, don't fret, Thumbkin. The sun is supposed to shine tomorrow. As soon as he saw it rising the next morning, he ran outside. Wee! Come on, VELVETNOSE. Let's play a hiding game. You'll be first. All right, Thumbkin. Close your eyes, count to 10, and don't you peek. VELVETNOSE ran around a few bushes, and then she jumped into an old hollow stump. When she heard him coming closer, her little heart beat very quickly, but she dared not make a sound. Ready or not, I'm coming, VELVETNOSE. I'll bet that you're right behind this log. Not here. I know. You must be in this old stump right here. And he looked right at VELVETNOSE. Oh, Thumbkin, you found me. And I thought I had such a good hiding place. Oh, well, it's your turn now. Thumbkin ran a little bit further than VELVETNOSE did and was just going to hide behind a big clump of bushes when he bumped into a tree trunk and fell into a small hole which was near the ground. Ooh, where am I? Oh, what's this? It sure smells like honey, fresh honey. As quick as a rabbit should be, he stuck his nose right into the can. Say, this is honey, and it's the best honey that I ever tasted. He was so busy gobbling up the honey that he forgot all about VELVETNOSE. In fact, he was so busy eating away that he did not even see the sign on the can which read in great big letters, "This can of honey belongs to me, signed Brown Bear." Oh! Thumbkin had stumbled right into Brown Bear's storehouse of honey, and what was even worse, it was just about time for Brown Bear to return and put another can in his hiding place. Oh, me! Oh, my! Thumbkin had better move quickly. VELVETNOSE finally came inside of the tree. Thumbkin, where are you? Out came Thumbkin, looking very sticky, holding the honey can. Oh, VELVETNOSE, I'm sorry. I forgot all about our game. You see, I fell into this hole and... Why, Thumbkin, look at yourself. You're a mess. When Thumbkin saw how angry she was, his hind foot started thumping the ground very quickly. Well, VELVETNOSE, I found this can of honey and... Oh, Thumbkin, you know that you should not have touched it. Look, the can reads that it belongs to Brown Bear. Hush! I think I hear someone coming. And sure enough, there was Brown Bear coming down the pathway. It's Brown Bear! Brown Bear? Oh, what should I do? Thumbkin was so excited that he reached over and plunked the can of dripping honey right over his head, and then he began to thump and hop around in circles. Before VELVETNOSE could grab his hand, he bumped right into Brown Bear's stomach. Gruff! VELVETNOSE closed her eyes as tight as she could and thought it was the end of Thumbkin, and then she screamed as loud as she could, Stop! You mustn't eat him! He's not very tasty, besides he's rather... But Brown Bear did not wait to hear any more, and when VELVETNOSE opened her eyes to see what had happened, there was Brown Bear running down the pathway, trying to unstick Thumbkin from his stomach by jumping up and down in time with Thumbkin. Grrr, get off of me, go away, whatever you are. And with one mighty big push, woof! He landed Thumbkin on the ground, kerplunk, into, of all things, an anthill. Brown Bear never stopped for even 1 minute, but kept right on running as fast as he could go to get away from this sticky thing. When VELVETNOSE finally looked at Thumbkin, she could see why Brown Bear had taken off so fast. Thumbkin really did look kind of scary, with bits and pieces of sticks and leaves stuck to his fur and all over the can so that you couldn't tell what he was. Before the ants began to crawl all over Thumbkin, VELVETNOSE grabbed his hand and quickly pulled him down to the creek and pushed him right into the water. Blah, blah, baby, what's going on here? Stop, I say. And then she pulled off the can. I should have let Brown Bear discover who you really were. But Thumbkin, I really still love you, even though I know, VELVETNOSE, I should not have touched something that did not belong to me. I'm sorry, really I am. So whenever you reach for something that does not belong to you, I hope that you will remember Thumbkin and be very polite by asking before you take. Today was a very special time of the year, and when Velvet-Nose woke up, she was all excited and could hardly wait to run over and see Thumbkin. Thumbkin! Thumbkin! Wake up! Wake up! Don't you know it's Bunny Hop Day today? What's that? Who's there? Oh, it's you, Velvet-Nose. What are you shouting about so early in the morning? I'm not shouting, Thumbkin. I'm just so excited about everything, aren't you? Oh, what for? What is there to get all stirred up about anyway? Now, every single rabbit has been up with the sun long ago and has already dressed up in their finest clothes because they know that this day is filled with lots and lots of fun and laughter. There are all kinds of bunny hop races and carrot games and oh, so many good things to eat and prizes to win too. But the most important thing that will happen right at exactly 12 o'clock noon will be the judging of the best carrot garden. This contest is open to any rabbit who can plant a carrot seed, so for many months they've been carefully watering and weeding and looking after their gardens. Velvet-Nose missed many picnics and many hours of playing in the sun to look after hers, and she knows that the winner of this contest must have the biggest and the juiciest and the tastiest carrots of all. Now the lucky one who does win is crowned King or Queen for the day and is given a shiny cup with their name printed on it. For the rest of the day they will meet and eat with all the important rabbit people and be treated with very special care. Is your garden all ready, Thumbkin? Now that's a silly question to ask, Velvet-Nose. You know that my garden is the biggest and the best garden for miles around. I feel sure that I shall be crowned king today. Well, Thumbkin, I only asked because you have been forgetting about your garden and have gone to play out in the field, and I just thought... You just think for yourself, Miss Velvet-Nose, and I'll look after myself. As Velvet-Nose scampered away, Thumbkin rolled over feeling too lazy to get out of bed. He must have fallen asleep because he had a wonderful dream about the judge who was putting a crown on his head and telling him that he was chosen king for the day. King for the day! He could hear these words being said over and over again. Then all of a sudden, he heard a loud bell and he woke up with a start. Oh my goodness, that must be the last warning bell for the garden contest. It was 15 minutes to 12. Poor Thumbkin knew that this gave him only a few minutes to hop down to his garden and clean it up before the judges came. He ran right past Velvet-Nose, who was standing beside her garden, and did not even see her. She was last in line, and Thumbkin's garden was next to hers. Thumbkin pulled a weed here and there, and he cleaned his garden up to look neat and trim. You could hardly tell that he had just worked on it for a few minutes. At least it looked clean on the top. Finally, the judges came to his garden. Thumbkin stood there so tall and so proud. Well, my boy, you have a mighty fine-looking garden. Looks like you've been looking after it every day. Oh, yes, sir, I certainly have, every day. Just when he said this, his hind foot started to thump the ground, and Velvet-Nose was looking at him with sad eyes because she knew that this was not true. Young man, stop that thumping and quickly choose your biggest carrot so I can test it. Carefully, oh so carefully, he picked his best carrot and handed it to the judge. Mighty fine, the best I've seen yet. Now for the final test. Just as the judge opened his mouth to take a bite, a great big fat worm stuck its head out and... Hold it, Buster! Just take one bite out of my little pink head, and I'll scream so loud that I'll wake up all my brothers and sisters. The judge was furious. He just glared at Thumbkin, who was by now popping up and down like a jack-in-the-box. Stop that thumping, I said. Do you hear me? Now, the only time that too many worms find their homes in carrots is when lazy rabbits do not have time to look after their gardens. Thumbkin did not say a word, But he felt very bad indeed, because he knew that this was the truth. When he looked up, he saw the judge placing the crown on Velvet-Nose's head, and he also knew that she had deserved it. She had worked very hard all summer long looking after her garden. So you see, don't you be lazy like Thumbkin was. If you want to win a contest, then you must work hard to help yourself win. The school bell rang once, twice, then 3 times, and all the good rabbit boys and girls lined up to go inside. All that is except one, Thumbkin. Velvet-Nose knew that he was missing long before anyone else did, and she was very worried about him. Just yesterday he had told her, "One of these days I'm going to stand right in the middle of the Wolfy Trail and not move, no matter who comes along." Now the Wolfy Trail was one place where nobody, not even the biggest rabbits ever went, because this was the very trail that the great big dogs followed and just loved to chase and scare rabbits. Oh dear, I do hope that he has not gone to the Wolfy Trail. Poor Velvet-Nose could not think of anything else but Thumbkin all day long and wonder where he might be. In the meantime, Thumbkin was having a real good time chasing bullfrogs and silly beetles. In fact, he was so busy hopping here and there and running after anything that moved that he did not notice how far he had gone until he looked up and saw a great big sign. "Wolfy Trail? Oh, who cares about an old sign? Not me. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Not me. I'm Thumbkin and I'm not afraid of anything." Then he stepped right into the middle of Wolfy Trail. "Hey, look at me! Look at me!" And just as he said this, he thought he heard a noise. He quickly turned around. "Who's there? Who made a noise?" But nobody answered. He heard something again, and by this time he was becoming rather frightened. And of course, whenever this happened, his hind foot would start thumping. He tried to sound brave. "Who's there? Come on out where I can see you." "So, you're not afraid of anything, are you?" Who's talking to me?" If Thumbkin could only see that this sound was coming from none other than Velvet-Nose. As soon as school was let out, Velvet-Nose followed the path to Wolfy Trail because somehow she knew that this would be where Thumbkin was. When she had heard him boasting yesterday about how great he was and how brave he was, she decided to put a scare into him once and for all so that he would never come here again. At school, someone had helped her to make up a stuffed dog, which she had brought with her and hid behind a rock, so Thumbkin could hear her but could not see her. She lowered her voice as far as it would go, and then she pushed the stuffed dog out from behind the rock. "Woof, woof! It's me, the Wolfy dog!" Thumbkin began to shake and tremble, and his teeth began to chatter. "Wolfy the dog? Yes, it's me, and I'm mighty hungry. In fact, I'm so hungry that I just might take you home and have you for dinner." Thumbkin was so frightened that he just couldn't even move. "Oh, please, don't take me away, please, Wolfy dog." "Why did you come here, Thumbkin? During school hours, too. You know that you're not supposed to be here." "I must admit that I have been a bad boy and played hooky from school, but I promise never to do that again. I promise never to come to Wolfy Trail again either." "Well, in that case, I guess I shall let you go this time. But let me warn you, Thumbkin, if you ever come here again, look out! Woof, woof! I'll get you for sure. Now get home with you." As soon as he heard this, he quickly hopped off the trail, and in lickety-split time was well on his way. If he had only turned around just once, he might have seen Velvet-Nose take the shortcut so that she could get home before him. "Why, Thumbkin, you look frightened. What is the matter with you?" "Velvet-Nose, I saw the Wolfy dog. Honest, I did. And he let me go if I promised never to come to Wolfy Trail again, and if I never stayed away from school like I did today." There, Thumbkin. You probably have had too much sun. Never mind. You'll feel much better tomorrow. The next day when Thumbkin came to school, everyone was talking about the wonderful picnic that Thumbkin had missed yesterday, and nobody would believe his story about seeing the Wolfy dog. For staying away from school, the teacher told Thumbkin that he had to stay in for 2 whole weeks and also write a story on why he should not go to the Wolfy Trail again. His first sentence was, "Never go where you are told not to go, and never stay away from school unless you have to." This is something good for you to remember, too. Every time Thumbkin hears music, something happens inside of him. He just wants to dance or sing or clap his hands or even march in time with the music. The rabbit band only allowed the best players to join in the band, and so Thumbkin told VELVETNOSE that he was going to get into the band someday. "Why, Thumbkin, I didn't know that you could play an instrument." "Oh, I can't, VELVETNOSE, but I will, because I've just got myself a set of drums and I'm learning how to beat them." VELVETNOSE was so happy for Thumbkin that she kissed him right on his forehead. "Oh, shucks, VELVETNOSE, you didn't have to do that." "Well, Thumbkin, you are being so good and staying out of mischief that I really think you are truly learning how to behave." For the next few days he practiced real hard, and then he went to see the band leader, who told him that he would listen to him play tomorrow morning at the old hollow oak tree, which was the place where all the players met to play their instruments together. The next day he listened, and then agreed to let Thumbkin try out for a little while. "I'm going to play in a band. I'll be great. I'll be famous." VELVETNOSE told him to listen carefully to the band leader and to watch everything that he did so as not to make any mistakes. "Why, don't you think that I'm good enough, VELVETNOSE?" "No, Thumbkin, that's not it. It's just that you're new at this sort of thing. You must not try to do things alone." The next day Thumbkin marched right up to his place in the band and could hardly wait until his turn came to play his part. Finally, the band leader pointed to him, and Thumbkin was all set to beat out a nice long rhythm on his drums, but when he looked down at his notes, there were only 2. Just bim, bam. "Do you mean to say that this is all I do is bim, bam? Nothing else, just bim, bam?" The band leader stopped the music and told Thumbkin in a quiet voice that he must not shout out like this, as it upsets the rest of the players. "We'll try it once more from you, Thumbkin. Are you ready?" Yes, I am. Bim, bam. Boom! Who played that boom? I boomed, because I just can't stand to bim, bam. "Well, in that case, you had better leave and go into our special room and stay in there until I call you back. Do you hear me, Thumbkin?" Thumbkin was being sent into a room which was soundproof, and that meant that he could beat his drum as loud as, or for as long as he wanted to, and nobody could hear him. He was not very happy in there, but nevertheless, he kept right on banging, and finally he thought he had learned a new beat. He was so excited that he wanted to tell the band leader all about it, but then he remembered that he had been told to stay until he was called. "Maybe I could surprise him." He peeked out of the door and then slowly sneaked up behind the band leader, who was busy waving his sticks in the air to keep the band players in time. And then, boom, 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 boom! All of a sudden, the band leader threw his sticks into the air and almost jumped up to the ceiling with them. Oh, dear! Oh, he was so cross! "Thumbkin, what are you doing?" The band leader's voice was so loud that it made Thumbkin nervous, and his foot started to thump on the floor. The leader thought that he was doing this to make him angrier, and he lost all of his self-control. He just went wild. He picked Thumbkin up in the air, and then with a loud crash, he sat him down right in the middle of his drum. Of course, This was the end of Thumpkin's drum, and the end of his stay with the band. Velvet Nose had been waiting for him for quite some time and had seen everything that had happened, and very quietly she put the broken drum and Thumpkin into a wheelbarrow and wheeled him home. Thumpkin, I really don't know what to do with you. Oh, Velvet Nose, I guess that I always have to learn the hard way. Yes, if Thumpkin had only listened, all this would not have happened. Winter was almost over, and Thumpkin and Velvet Nose could hardly wait until they would see and smell and taste the green grass once more. It had been a long, cold winter with much too much snow and blowing winds. One day, Thumpkin noticed the snow beginning to melt. Oh, Velvet Nose, look, spring is here. There's still a long way to go yet, Thumpkin. You know how it fools you. One day it melts, and the next day it freezes over. The sun shone, and the snow turned to slush, and there were puddles of water all over the ground, and this made Thumpkin very happy. You see how right I am. Soon the snow will all be gone, Velvet Nose. Velvet Nose only shook her head. Don't be too sure of that, Thumpkin. You never know about the weather. Thumpkin kicked up his heels and quickly hopped away from Velvet Nose. I'm going to play at the other end of the field. Thumpkin, you know that you're not supposed to go too far away from home, especially at this time of the year when the weather is so unsettled. But Thumpkin paid no attention to Velvet Nose's warnings, and away he scampered as fast as he could go, jumping in every puddle he saw. It was a long way to the end of the field, and so by the time he got there, he was all tired out and sat down for a small rest. Suddenly he felt a few drops of rain, and when he looked up, he felt a great big splash on his nose. So what's a little rain? It'll melt the snow even faster. He played on until the late afternoon, and then he noticed how cool the air was getting. This made Thumpkin shiver. Brrr! I'm freezing. Oh, I'd better get home. As he hopped along, he saw that the puddles were slowly forming into thin sheets of ice. Oh, me! Oh, my! I'm getting covered with ice. Tiny icicles formed at the end of each hair, and he looked rather funny and scary, too. He was about halfway home when he fell into a small hole in the road. The rain was falling fast now, and it took only a few seconds to freeze Thumpkin's coat to the ground and hold him fast. He tried to shout for help, but his mouth was all covered with ice, and he couldn't even make a sound except mmm, mmm. He was so frightened that his hind foot started to beat the ground, and just as quickly the ice formed again. In the meantime, Velvet Nose was heading straight for the end of the field in search of Thumpkin when she realized that it was getting rather late. If she had not stumbled and fell, she might have walked right past him. Oh, dear. Oh, Thumpkin, how am I ever going to get you out of here? She tugged. Ugh! Ugh! And then she pulled, and finally she got him out of the hole. She tried to break open the ice with her hand, but it was no use. It just wouldn't budge. I guess I will have to push and slide you all the way home, Thumpkin. So hang on. Zoom! Away went Thumpkin. As they neared home, all the other rabbits were curious and came rushing out of their houses to see what Velvet Nose was doing, pushing a big block of ice. By now the ice was so thick that they could not see Thumpkin inside. Oh, it's just some ice I found. One big, bold rabbit came up and crack! He chipped off a piece of ice with his boot and ouch! Ouch! Hey, stop that! It's me you're kicking! This surprised the big rabbit, and he kicked again. Ouch! This broke open the rest of the ice, and out tumbled Thumpkin, looking cold and wet indeed. When all the other rabbits saw Thumpkin, they all started to laugh and shout and pointed their fingers at him. Ha, ha, look at Thumpkin. That's what you get for wandering too far away from home. Thumbkin was terribly ashamed to be seen here lying here like this, and he was even more ashamed when he heard what they had said, because it was true. It was true. It did serve him right. Staying close to home is a good rule for everyone, including you to follow and to remember. And Thumbkin had lots of time to think about this for the rest of the week, which was spent in bed, trying to get rid of the bad cold he had caught. Oh, a-hiking we shall go, a-hiking we shall go. I'll lead the pack and then bring them back, a-hiking we shall go. Hurry up, Velvet Nose, don't be so slow. Velvet Nose did not like to be up ahead of the rest of the pack. She wanted to stay as close to the others as possible in case they might get separated and lose each other in the woods, but not Thumbkin. Several times the oldest rabbit scout had to tell him to get back in line. Thumbkin, you're going to get lost if you do not stop showing off all the time. And just as she said these words, she saw Thumbkin stick his nose inside of a hollow log and then, "Yow! Help! I've been shot! Yow! Somebody do something!" Velvet Nose and the rest of the pack came running to see what was the matter, and then they looked at Thumbkin's nose. It was full of porcupine quills. There was only one thing to do, and that was to pull each quill out one at a time. One at a time? Oh, that will hurt! And it did hurt. Poor Thumbkin certainly wished that he had never been so curious and stayed with the others. "I do hope that you shall behave, Thumbkin, for the rest of the hike." Soon they were on their way again, and for a long time Thumbkin did stay right beside Velvet Nose. It wasn't long before they reached a big cave, and the leader said that they would camp out front for an hour to rest and eat. "Nobody leave the pack, that's an order. After this we'll head down to the lake and look for some seashells." But as soon as Thumbkin finished eating, he could not sit still another minute longer and decided to be the first one down to the lake. "Thumbkin! Thumbkin, come back! Don't go by yourself! Please come back!" He just laughed and kept right on running. Down to the shore he ran, and soon he was out of breath and stopped to rest on a great big rock. But suddenly, the rock started to move. This startled Thumbkin so much that he fell off. He turned his head on one side and on the other side, and then slowly he walked around this funny rock that moved. "Uh-oh, it's moving again!" Thumbkin knocked on the rock. "Is anybody there?" Nothing happened. He knocked again, harder this time. Then he got so excited he jumped on it with a great big leap. And the next thing that happened was really very sad indeed, for Thumbkin that is, because the rock turned out to be a snapping turtle who was having a nice warm nap in the sun. Then along came someone who woke him up with a knock knock and a bang. Thumbkin was in for it now. Out came the turtle's head and snap! He grabbed Thumbkin by his tail. "Hey! Hey you! Let go! Let go! That's my tail you've got in your mouth!" By now Thumbkin had realized that this was a snapping turtle, and he wanted no part of him. But by now the turtle was too cross to let go, and decided to teach this pest to mind his own business. As he dragged him down to the water, Thumbkin's hind foot started to beat the ground. While he jiggled and shook, the turtle held on even tighter. "Oh, I'm losing my tail! Oh, please let go! I promise not to bother you again when you're sleeping." But the turtle paid no attention to Thumbkin and kept right on heading for the water until, "Help, help, I'm drowning!" Poor Thumbkin screamed so loudly that the rest of the pack heard his cries, and with Velvet Nose in the lead, they all rushed down to the water. This is one time that Thumbkin's hind foot did do something good, because when the turtle finally let go of his tail, Thumbkin's foot kept hitting the water, just like a big paddle, and this saved his life. Velvet Nose, with the help of the others, pulled him ashore. "Thumbkin, sit up and listen to me. You have been a naughty boy, and I should never really speak to you again." "I'm sorry, Velvet Nose. I just can't sit up, because that's where it hurts. Oh, does it ever?" Yes, poor Thumbkin has had quite a day, and I suppose he will always remember to stay close to the leader of the pack whenever they go for a hike again. I'm sure that he won't forget, especially when he tries to sit down. The next time that you are on a hike, or even for a long walk, think about Thumbkin, and don't you try to be a show-off or lead the pack. Leave that to the leader.